like no content is actually locked behind a paywall, but like the usability is locked behind a paywall basically. When you first said this, like the whole reason is COVID, I was like, so GGG, we're like, okay, a pandemic, we need to like reduce the mob density so we can keep the minimum distance between mobs. That's like a first thing my brain thought about. I was like, wait, no, that's not what he's referring to.
That's nice to hear, but not what I meant. No social distancing for mobs.
Yeah, we can't put more mobs into the maps. Like the distances are getting too small. No. Yeah, I think that might have actually affected.
No,
it.
But
overall, I don't.
But you can use that joke for the new stash tabs. Maximize the distance between item types.
Between item types, yeah. Yeah, the new stash tabs I didn't really get. That was a bit of a weird one.
Well, we moved into it normally. So I thought I actually bought those stash tabs like the moment they came out, but I did it with like a super salty taste in my mouth. Like I'm like unhappy about doing this, but I do get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these a league, and they quite often take up 3, 4, 5, 6 stash tabs. So I need them, but I'm not pleased about it. Oils, catalysts, blight maps, like all those sort of things.
For me, the thing is, I have a normal stash tab for each of those things. And the amount that I get in a non-simulacrum spammy league, I think fits into those tabs pretty well. Like my oils that I get during a league that I pick up, at some point I filter out like clear oils and whatnot. They fit into like one normal tab easily. And how often do you actually anoint something? At some point I would just stop picking the lower tiers up and sell the higher tiers.
I just put my oils into the wildcard slots and the currency tab.
No, those are full of what do you call them? Catalysts and simulacrum splinters. I actually put in the normal currency tab. I don't really see why I would put them anywhere else because they stack to like 5k, and to the point I have 5k, I just run them.
So the thing is,
you go.
The thing is, I was upset about it until later that day when they showed us the stash affinity.
Yes,
plan.
Exactly.
And then I was like, I'm on board. I want them. I'm happy that I bought them now. Those are mine. I want stash affinity, please.
Yes, exactly. Sorting items has become so annoying. And I think the least fun part of Path of Exile is sorting 1 or 2 quad stash tabs. I can't imagine a less fun activity right now. So, and honestly, I call this the Diablo Immortal stash tabs, because instead of saying, hey guys, here's your harvest fix, here's your harvest commentary, here's what we're going to do with stash tabs. So you can auto-click into auto-sort into currency, it can auto-sort into divination card and so forth. It's all awesome. And by the way, we are also releasing 3 new stash tabs for quite a low price. That's basically what they've done. Instead, they didn't talk at all about Delirium, didn't talk at all about, Harvest, didn't talk about the cluster geo complaints at that point, didn't talk about the affinities, and just slapped into an angry community something to rage about even more. So it felt like releasing Diablo Immortal before announcing Diablo 4 kind of is not a clever PR move.
Yeah,
I think they weren't aware that... Yeah, please, Yoji.
I think the PR disaster was like the worst part about this, and like the thing that they could have avoided the best.
Yes,
because I think they probably had this scheduled like weeks before, and they just like went with schedule, and then they the subreddit already was like boiling up to the point that it was, where people were like, harvest sucks, where are my mobs, where are my alchemy orbs, and then like the other stuffs, like cluster jewels are hard to roll. People are like building up, raging about stuff more and more, and then they were like, give us money, by the way. And then everyone just like lost their shit. I think that's kind of like what happened. That's just, it didn't work. At any point, anyone would have like been like, maybe like, I don't know, Bex, whoever reads like the subreddit was like, yo guys, before we release this info, we should maybe like make a statement of all the good stuff coming, and then we can like be like, give money now.
Exactly.
And that would have been fine probably if they announced like the stash affinity thing and like the cluster fixes and improved the seed drop rate, and then after that they would be like stash tabs. I think it would have gone over fine. I don't think the stash tabs themselves are an issue. I think people expected to get a fix for the sorting issue first before getting stuff like stash tabs, and I think when people saw the stash tabs, they thought, oh, so GGG are not fixing this. They think this is the solution, which apparently or obviously now, as we know, is not the case. But no one knew that wasn't the case.
Yep.
Everyone thought like, so the stuff we've been complaining about, that's how they want to fix this. That's how they want to fix oils and catalysts and whatnot.
Well,
and we're like, that's not a good enough solution.
But it wasn't apparently not supposed to be the solution. So I think at this point, I think it's all fine. But if those 3 stash tabs were the solution, I would have agreed with like the raging mod and be like, yeah, that's not going to fix the actual issue.
Yeah.
I think the big problem with the stash tabs that most people have is that, like, at least the blighted map stash tab and to some degree the Delirium stash tab is paying for functionality that should well have been implemented in existing tabs already. Because blighted maps are maps. They should be in the map tab. There should be a spot for them in the map tab. And at least after Blight went core. Maybe not instantly, but maybe like 1 or 2 leagues after. In the same way, Simulacrum splinters are splinters. Just like Breach splinters and Timeless splinters. Like, they belong in the splinter tab. You can't say otherwise. I don't know. It's
I think it does. It would make sense for there's like just like one splinter type and one like large map fragment type. The splinters. It's like only one thing. They have to fit that in there somewhere. And I find it weird that we didn't get like instead of the Metamorph tab, we didn't get something similar to the seed cache where we just plop in the Metamorph organs in a separate thing in the lab. Because when do you actually look at the Metamorph organs? When you are planning to go to the lab and make a
collect them
Metamorph?
anyway. Like when you have a set of good organs, then you do the Metamorph. Like if you have 5 or 6 that you can do in a row.
It's usually like after like 3 weeks or so of the league, I'm like, oh wait, Metamorph exists, and then I run all my organs that I have. That's usually what happens to me. I just like toss them into one stash. Then when it's full, I'm like, wait, I can't control click my organ. Oh, it's full. Okay, do I have eyes?
I think that's a gameplay best solution and kind of compromise solution between gameplay and income. And that's what GG went for. Because gameplay best solution, Delirium Orbs don't need to exist. They could have just added one Delirium Orb that applies 20% on a map, and then you get a random Delirium in-game. So that would be like absolutely basically the same, and people would still be using that.
Wouldn't be the same in terms of trading? Because like
in terms of
you trade the map that has the mod.
But yep.
Yeah, I think
the same for Metamorph. You could have done something similar. For instance, every time you get that bar up, you kind of fill it automatically a little bit with the last rewards, and then at some point you have this Uber Metamorph fight in the lab. So you don't,
which is easier than the one in the map.
You don't even have to pick up the organ. So that could be like passively stack up over time. So at some point you have this big encounter. And the oils, they're also actually great items and could use their own stash tab, and the anointing mechanics you can anoint in there. It's right. I actually like the oil stash tab. I think it's well done. But I feel like some things like the blighted maps or the Delirium splinters, I think that's kind of the extreme example. It feels a little bit too much. I feel like they should have rather released a good oil stash tab, or maybe add something like an expansion stash tab to the currency stash tab, because I get it. They can't work for free forever, and they can't keep updating the same stash tab everyone bought 3 years ago with new content, and it also doesn't pay their bills. So I understand their trouble, I understand their dilemma, but I feel like it could have been done in a little bit better way anyway.
Yeah. Maybe I could have sold them as like upgrades to the currency stash tab, where you are like you buy the Metamorph expansion for the currency stash tab, or you buy the Blight Oil expansion for the currency stash tab, kind of like this, if they want to still sell it. But I think the tab affinity or like the item affinity is a bit similar to that. And that's actually like one thing where I'm a bit worried about with the affinity announcement, that where Chris like mentioned what the current plans are. I mean, it's not set in stone, and I'm a bit worried. The only thing that you cannot like do affinity for, as he said, or like they're not planning to do, is rare items. And rare items is already what most people like who efficiently play PoE and like try to min-max are not picking up. So there's even less reason to pick up rare items for like anyone who has stash tabs now, because everything else will automatically get control clicked into your stash and sorted.
But if everything else is automatically control clicked and sorted, then you have so much time on your hands. Then you can identify some rares.
Or you could kill
play
more
the
mobs.
next map. And get more automatically sorted items to then kill more mobs. And
so that's not even my concern.
I think that's my currently biggest concern, but maybe you have a better one.
My
I think
concern
there's
would be that
a
it's
worse concern.
The problem is it might
better.
add more and more additional small stash tabs, and you have to switch between them all the time. Maybe like that. But Balor, tell me.
No, my bigger concern is there's two things that need to happen for this not to be a horribly pay-to-win mechanic. One, default accounts don't have enough base stash tabs. They need to have probably at least 6 or 8 at this point with the amount of stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
And that affinity stuff needs to work with default stash tabs. I need to be able to tell it.
Definitely.
I need to be able to tell it that my currency goes in this tab, even if it's not a currency tab.
Yeah, I think that how I understood it, that is how it should work. If it doesn't, I think that would be horrible. Because I think that affinity function, he said you do not have to pay for the affinity function.
No, he said they said you do not have to pay for the folder function. For the affinity function, they specifically left it unclear whether it would be pay or not.
All right.
So it's a little bit edgy. Yeah, I agree that
I'm
that's on the edge of
99.9% sure we won't have to pay for the affinity function, but I'm 99.9% sure you won't get additional free stash tabs, and no one will also get the affinity function for any non-premium stash tabs. I'm like pretty damn sure about that because the premium selling function already pretty much shows that. So yeah, you can. It's basically at that point you can try out the game, and yeah, you can play with your 4 stash tabs. But if you want to realistically trade or collect more than 1 hour worth of loot, you basically have to pay for that. And I'm not sure what to think about that. On one hand, it's kind of shitty. On the other hand, it's kind of understandable. It's a complicated dilemma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, PoE at this point is kind of like more a free trial game already. Yes. I feel. I mean, if you want to play it, you can play till the end game, but it's not like convenient to play till the end game without like no content is actually locked behind a paywall, but like the usability is locked behind a paywall basically, which is like a very soft paywall. I mean, there have been people like raised to 100 with like I think Isla was like famously racing to 100 with like.
But that's ages ago. That was before Legion Splinters and all.
Yeah, that I know that was all up. Even though you can argue that Legion Splinters are not really usually part of a 100 race, so. You can just like leave them out if you wanted to, but yeah, it's a bit tricky, and there's like so many more items now. Oils are definitely part of every character now, and there are already so many items.